Okay, so it felt like in this duel, I went full Joseph Joestar. Like, I made that comparison when it felt like they snuck in a Joseph Joestar reference earlier, a couple episodes back, but this time they just full went and did it. My favorite character in this Yu-Gi-Oh series and my favorite character in the whole JoJo franchise basically just sort of being turned into the same character. Coincidence? Yeah, actually, probably it makes sense to go this route. Yeah, it's just kind of a common thing to do with a character like I. Anyways, so this week we had I Duel Pandor, and as someone pointed out in the comments last week, this is the first duel in the whole show to be happening in the real world. And it's between two fucking artificial intelligence. Go figure. This is what Yu-Gi-Oh is now. But what it also was very good and interesting. So at the beginning of this duel and throughout it, there's a fascinating conversation going on between these two characters of I going to Pandor, are you really free will? Are you alive? And Pandor says, yes, I just have controls in me so that way I can function alongside humanity. Which is interesting to think about because up until now, this show has sort of made it very clear that the good people are the ones who have complete 100% free will. But here we saw an AI with 100% free will is now going all half-cocked on everybody, and you have this other AI that is actually has the ability to function without problems because she has the leash on her. When total freedom was given to the other guy, he's now gone and sort of screwed it up for himself. But now, here's the option of, well, maybe if you had a little control in you, what if you were kept in check, then you could be free. And what's interesting is, Pandor gives I the option to go away free. Just give up the duel. Okay, obviously he wouldn't, because if he surrenders and gives up the data, then obviously he still dies. But what's kind of interesting is that Pandor doesn't value killing I. She doesn't have any real want or desire to hurt him. Like, if she did, then that would have been because Revolver programmed her to. But Revolver didn't. Revolver gave Pandor enough free will to where Pandor made the conscious decision to reason with I. Like, it's sort of this interesting opposite thing, because when she brings that up, why doesn't I just give up? I says, it's too late. I've gone too far. I've made too many decisions. Kind of an interesting thing because last week I said that there was no way Go could be forgiven, at least in I's eyes. He said that, well, my friends will never get to come back, and you did, so fuck you. And here I is saying, I don't get to come back. I don't get to return to normal, which is kind of an interesting way. It really follows through on this is I's mentality. He is really viewing things from the perspective of once you screw it up, there is no going back for you. Kind of this interesting way to think about it. I lost all his friends. Their one chance of life is over, so he has this understanding and respect for what you choose to do with your life. And if you choose to go down the wrong path, you shouldn't get that chance to come back. I'm not saying this is a right way to think or a right way to behave, but it's fascinating to see how I's sense of right and wrong has developed and reached to this point where he's doing whatever it is he's doing. And we got kind of a bit of a hint of that because when he sort of flew back onto the plane because the robot has the wire to extend the arm, I goes, now what is this for? I think I knows exactly what's going on here. I think Soul Technologies is still our final big baddie. A lot of people are talking about that this whole thing has been a expectation subversion with I being the villain and he's just gonna like mow his way down through Soul Technologies, and it partially is. Definitely the way they bait and switched everything with Queen, but I think ultimately Soul Technologies is still the ultimate big baddie world domination we want thing, and it's kind of like I is trying to destroy them, even if he acknowledges that destroying them corrupts his soul and he has no right to come back for this. At one point, I says that there's only one person he wants the forgiveness or the respect of or that kind of thing. I think we can all assume that is Yusaku. But the reason I think it's interesting that it's Yusaku is, what if I knows that the only way to end all this is to get your hands dirty in a way you can't go back from? Like, kill somebody, or go to that level of extreme that he doesn't want Yusaku to go through. What if part of the reason he's doing all this is because he's just so guilty of just all the madness and insanity that's been going on? So he wants to stop it from happening again. And so therefore, the best way to do that is make it Yusaku doesn't have to go too far again or hurt himself. This is that would be an interesting way how Ai justifies doing all this. Like, he just wants Yusaku to be able to sort of be happy, and this is his way of atoning for the very sin of his own creation, which came at the hand of this kid suffering. I don't know if that's fully what they're going to do. I might just be completely wrong, but that is kind of the impression I'm getting, that this is where this is going. So let's talk about the rest of the duel for a minute. So Topologic is now an archetype. I don't know if anything in Bomber, Trisbania, or Gumblar's designs made really screamed bees. If someone did, and I've noticed sort of the kind of honeycomb pattern on them, but I've noticed that on other Yu-Gi-Oh cards too, that when they get further support, never have anything to do with kind of insects. It is kind of interesting to wonder, with the bee route, sort of the idea that Pandor is sort of like the worker bee. Insects, typically in fiction, are sort of represented as these kind of mindless drones. Honeybees often are referred to as a subclass of the drone bee. So what if that's also kind of the idea too? Ai's deck is sporadic and it's crazy with its designs. So therefore, that's a representation of his crazy all over the place personality. Whereas Pandor is methodic, does what she's told, follows her programming, does her job, and just like a worker bee. Again, I don't know how much of that is true or if it was just always planned to go this route, but a topologic archetype seems very trolly to me. Also, did Trisbania look this badass the first time it was used? When Revolver faced Emma? That was a long-ass time ago. But, like, holy shit, it came out on the board, it was all slashy killy, it had a kill mode. Like, it looked really cool in this duel. And it was also fun to see Bomber Dragon again. I like Topologic Bomber Dragon a lot as a card, so to see it kind of make a triumphant return for the first time, I think, since the Extra Link, or did it show up at any point in Season 2? I don't remember. But to see this guy come back actually made me pretty happy. So that was a nice little inclusion. The big thing with the duel that sort of interests me, I love the way they kind of work in this sort of dry wit, almost British humor sense to the whole thing. Like, Ai is sort of kind of trying to do the thing where he predicts everything 3 moves ahead, but he can't because he's a little inept. And that's actually pretty fun to watch and a nice way to get your comic relief in. It stays within the personality of the character because that totally feels like something I would do. So that's a very fun way. And I like Pandor's reactions too, just like, does not compute until she sort of puts it together. Oh, you're trying to play the idiot. Again, just like Joseph Joestar. But if we want to apply this to the way Ai has dueled everyone up to this point, it's interesting how Ai adapts his personality to whatever he thinks will mess with the opponent the most. When he tried to distract Yusaku and Flame and Revolver, he was very much sort of saying the things that would piss them off the most, so they'll make a mistake so he can stall longer. When he duels people like Queen or Go, who he doesn't necessarily have the most straightforward way to emotionally manipulate them, he's very cunning, he's very calculating. And in a situation like this where Pandor understands that, he decides to play the idiot. It's a very interesting way to do the duels, as it keeps every duel seeming fresh. Yugioh is nothing new to the concept of a villain who hides a psychotic mind with just kind of being goofy and ridiculous. So that's nothing new, but they kind of come up with nice ways to put their own spin on it. I love how Ai makes fun of Yu-Gi-Oh cliches, like how having to get yourself out of a bad situation every duel makes you kind of a weakling in a sense, or how I think it was last episode when he just says, "We'll settle this with a duel." That almost felt kind of making fun of the way Yu-Gi-Oh executes itself. I've really enjoyed this aspect to Ai's character, and just the whole Ai character has really worked for me. I mean, it's worked since day one, but this has been a fascinating turn of events. And I can't wait to see where it goes. Hopefully they don't kill Aoi again. Don't kill Aoi again! Please! Keep her in this somehow. But anyways, we'll get more into that next week when we get more Tindangle cards. Because that deck didn't prove to be an annoying troll deck. You face it locals. Anyways, so yeah. As for the TCG question of the week, we got a brand new Battles of Legend coming out Friday. We get Bug Archetype. We get 5th Hero Archetype. We get a lot of little goofy stuff. And of course, we get Utopic Kaiser, which as a number hunter, I need. So, yeah. What are you most excited for? The Armored Bee Archetype has a lot of people interested to sort of test out kind of this spammy synchro deck, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little interested too, though I do want to test out that hero build that topped in the OCG like a week or two ago. So yeah, that'll be what I'm going to do. So tell me about that below, and as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me next week for more of the I Kills Motherfuckers show.